Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Joel. Good evening, Nicola. Welcome to the newsroom. I am Shaheen Jurang Party. Well, to get the stories underway, the Cabinet of Ministers convened this morning under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena. Now, speaking to the media following the meeting at the Presidential Secretariat, ministers said several decisions were taken to resolve the issues of the people.
A committee will hold discussions with regard to fuel prices. However, a final decision has not been reached as yet. Discussions are underway with regard to the price of gas. It was brought forward by Minister Sajid. However, a decision is yet to be reached on it.
Cabinet
reshuffles, abolish executive presidency or not, will there be another election or not? Are those the most important questions at present? There are over 60,000 unemployed graduates to whom jobs must be provided. The lands must be divided. Houses have to be constructed. We need to provide electricity. We need to provide water. We have to protect the farmer, the fishing community, the middle-class state employees. These are the most important topics. The government of good governance will move forward whether agreements are signed or not. Now I will give you the best news for the benefit of the country, which is that Cabinet approval was granted to construct 2,500 Udaga Mana by 2020. A direct order was issued to get the land immediately to construct the remaining villages. The government is moving forward without any disturbances from anyone. The government is moving forward successfully with strength.
Following the cabinet meeting, ministers of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party met with President Maithripala Sirisena and held discussions separately.
This was not a special discussion. We usually discuss about the present situation, about political, social and economic problems following the cabinet meeting. We held that meeting as usual.
Asked
that question after the meeting of the Central Committee. As the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, we are hoping to move forward with the strength of everyone. We have received the message that everyone is with the President in moving ahead while protecting the SLFP.
Now, while these ministers seemed quite positive about the current situation in the country, that doesn't seem to be the case, because the rupee continued its downward trend, hitting an all-time low of 158 rupees and 69 cents against the US dollar amid pressure by importer dollar demand. Now, analysts say a wait-and-see approach by exporters after the Sinhala and Tamil New Year has resulted in a shortfall of currency in foreign currency in the system. Now, the US dollar closed at 156 rupees and 85 to 95 cents the previous day.
The rupee remained broadly stable during the first 8 months of 2015, but depreciated substantially thereafter as a result of the central bank's decision to allow greater flexibility in the determination of the exchange rate. The rupee fell 2.5% against the US dollar last year, 3.9% in 2016 and almost nearly 10% against the US dollar in 2015. According to the central bank, the rupee has weakened 2% against the US dollar up to April 5th this year. The currency has also depreciated 4.8% against the euro, 6.4% against the sterling pound and 7.1% against the Japanese yen. One of the key concerns of a weak Sri Lankan rupee is imported inflation. Sri Lanka is an import-dependent country. Most of our essential goods, including fuel, cereal and large number of food items are imported into the country. Although a weak rupee would help our exporters to be competitive in the global market, it would push cost of living up, especially with global oil prices rising. A depreciating rupee will make imported goods expensive. This could also trigger political consequences for the government in power, as voters will be willing to listen to an alternative force. Reuters, citing dealers, said they expect the rupee to gradually weaken and face higher volatility this year due to huge debt repayments commitments by the government.
Now, while the rupee is depreciating, there might be other complications as well in the country. Now, we have 3 bottles of kinds of fuel before me. This, of course, on my far right is a bottle of kerosene oil. And then we have diesel and petrol. If you look at the prices closely of a litre of diesel, right now the CPC sells a litre of petrol at 95 rupees with tax and charges amounting to 30 rupees and 36 cents. Right? Then let's take a look at petrol. CPC currently sells petrol at 170 rupees per litre with tax and charges coming to the cost of 52 rupees and 95 cents. Kerosene oil is put it to the side for the moment, because at the moment there has been no mechanism for it as yet. Now, to give you a run-through of why we're talking about this now, in a report issued in August 2017, which is last year, Sri Lanka was given until March this year to introduce a price formula for fuel, following a directive made by the International Monetary Fund. Now, in its evaluation report, the IMF said had called for an automatic pricing mechanism to be formulated in order for Sri Lanka to secure the next tranche of its extended fund facility. Now, as Sri Lanka has failed to meet this deadline, the IMF issued an ultimatum to the government of Sri Lanka to bring an automatic fuel pricing formula before June this year, or they may hold the fourth review of their $1.5 billion stabilization program with Sri Lanka. So you can expect these prices to increase this June. But let's talk about why we are in this situation right now. Now, when this government came into power in 2015, a political decision was made to reduce the prices of fuel drastically. However, they did this against a backdrop where the prices of fuel in the world market were relatively low. However, right now, the price of oil in the world market have increased drastically. Now, as rupee has also depreciated, this is expected to cause more problems for Sri Lanka, as the dollar, which was at 133 rupees back in 2015, as our report earlier before, is today at close to 158 rupees. Let's talk about the losses the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation is incurring a day. Because of this inability to implement this price mechanism, the CPC incurs a loss of 39 million rupees a day. The main cause for the CPC to incur such large losses is because some of the state-owned enterprises have failed to pay back the money for fuel. Let's talk about the highest enterprises which owe the CPC. This chart here explains everything. The Ceylon Electricity Board and affiliated companies owes a staggering amount of 63 billion rupees to the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. And then we have the controversial national carrier of Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan Airlines, owing the CPC at 13 billion rupees. And then we have the Sri Lanka Transport Board, railways and other sectors owing 4 billion, which brings a total of 80 billion rupees. The question is, the all-important question we need to ask ourselves and our viewers, under whose supervision are these state-owned enterprises which are causing losses to CPC are being run? Here we have the CEO of Sri Lankan Airlines, Captain Surendra Ratwatta, who has been amidst so much of controversy. And then we, of course, have the chairman of the CEB, W.B. Ganewala. W.B. Ganewala, of course, was appointed to that position quite recently. The question is, shouldn't these people who run these state-owned enterprises which owe a massive amount to the CPC, which is causing losses to the country, be held accountable for these losses that are being caused? Are we the ones who have to pay for these losses which are being caused? Let's talk about the IMF again, the International Monetary Fund. Now, because of this situation, Sri Lanka continues to request for loans from the International Monetary Fund, as Sri Lanka seems to be in a massive debt crisis. But the IMF also continues to give Sri Lanka its loans. But these loans are being given on massive and strict conditions. This essentially has made Sri Lanka the IMF's puppets. Yes, Sri Lanka is IMF's puppets. If you really think about it, this is also a form of what we call neo-colonialism. We were once invaded with arms, but this time what is being done is Sri Lanka is being owned and invaded with the use of loans and funds. If you think about it, what did China do? China also gave us loans at high interest rates for projects which were implemented without following proper tender procedure. This is exactly what the IMF is doing right now as well. This begs a question as well. What did former President Mahinda Rajapaksa do? What did our incumbent Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe? What is he doing right now? And the biggest question is, what is President Maithripala Sirisena doing to stop these loss-making institutions? While all this is happening, while all these losses are happening, while all these issues are also happening, while certain assurances were made, the Unemployed Graduates Association also staged a demonstration today demanding employment in Colombo.
The march, which began from Colombo Fort, reached the Presidential Secretariat. Police took measures to temporarily close the Lotus Road in Colombo due to the protest. 5 protesters were given an opportunity to enter the Presidential Secretariat.
We were given a chance to hold discussions with Prime Minister Secretary Dadallage. They promised to call for more interviews in a systematic way. The government should make a policy decision to provide jobs for the unemployed graduates. We will wait until the 30th of April. We will start making arrangements to continue with the struggle if they do not fulfill their promises.
Well, crisis after crisis. While all these issues are taking place, there is also an internal crisis within the ruling party, the United National Party. Now, the UNP Reforms Committee, which consists of 12 members, convened at Temple Trees today. Now, today as well, the Prime Minister, regardless of external allegations, continued to sit at this meeting today. Now, speaking at this meeting, State Minister Ajit P. Pereira said there can be no leader, deputy leader or assistant leader who can serve for life. Yes, he also proposed that these positions be chosen through an election. Now, in response, Minister Sajith Premadasa, the deputy leader of the party, said he is ready at any given time to face an election for the post of deputy leader. However, there were certain ministers who were not so much in favor of an election being held to choose these leaders. Now, certain party members have begun to doubt if State Minister Ajit P. Pereira did make this proposal, knowing there wouldn't be an election to choose these leaders, nor would there be anyone as candidates for these positions. Now, today a final decision could not be reached at the Central Committee meeting, at this Reforms Committee meeting, and a meeting will be held tomorrow as well. Now, keeping all of this in mind, the All Ceylon Peasants Federation also convened a media briefing today to talk about the prices of goods.
All farmers except for paddy farmers are given a bag of fertilizer for 1,500 rupees. The government announced this program will come into effect from the 7th. It's been 2 weeks, and yet there is no fertilizer in the shop which is available for 1,500 rupees. Rather than selling it for 1,500 rupees, they are selling mixed fertilizer for 3,000 to 4,000 rupees. The government does not have time to solve this issue. In short, what will happen if a cattle herd enters the parliamentary ground? The herd will have conflicts with each other. That is the situation. The cabinet of ministers have fallen into such a sorry state, they have nothing else to do except to delay everything. The heads are shallow. While they portray to show the increase in gas and milk powder prices, they are playing games on the other side.
Now, it's a known fact that this government came into power with the objective and with the mandates that they would eradicate corruption from the country. Having said that, former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran and former Sri Lankan Ambassador to Russia Udayanga Weeratunga are wanted by Sri Lankan courts over serious acts of fraud and corruption currently investigated by authorities. Now, however, they have not been brought back to Sri Lanka for these legal proceedings. Interpol issued red notices on Mahendran and Weeratunga, and the latter is currently being detained in the United Arab Emirates.
Inspector General of Police Pujit Jayasundara today said requests have been made to repatriate former Sri Lankan Ambassador to Russia Udayanga Weeratunga, adding it depends on decisions of the United Arab Emirates. The IGP noted if UAE institutes legal actions against Weeratunga over the reason for his arrest, Sri Lanka cannot interfere in that process. Sri Lanka police believes they can arrest former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran in the coming days and bring him to Sri Lanka, as the conditions in Singapore are different from those in the United Arab Emirates. Udayanga Weeratunga has been named as the chief suspect in the case filed in court over the controversial purchase of MiG fighter aircraft, and he was arrested by UAE authorities on the 26th of March. Newsfirst has learnt the UAE has requested Sri Lanka to make a request for the extradition of Udayanga Weeratunga. However, it has come to light, though Sri Lanka and UAE signed an extradition treaty in 2009, it has not been ratified in Parliament, and this has posed as an obstruction to the process of bringing Weeratunga to the country. A senior-ranked government officer said, though there is no extradition treaty, attempts can be made to bring back Udayanga Weeratunga to the country under the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. Sri Lanka will have to present facts on the matter during legal proceedings instituted in the UAE. Investigating officers claim, though the Sri Lanka ambassador to the UAE must play a crucial role in the process, the ambassador Sulaiman Jifri Mohideen is not providing sufficient cooperation. As a result of this situation, authorities have been compelled to spend 12 million rupees for assistance from a private attorney based in the United Arab Emirates. Sulaiman Jifri Mohideen was appointed as ambassador after the present government came into power, and he was once a member of the UNP Working Committee and a close associate of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Arjuna Mahendran, a Singapore national, is wanted for a case filed by the Criminal Investigations Department over the central bank treasury bond scam. At present, there is an existing extradition agreement between Sri Lanka and Singapore to enable authorities to arrest Mahendran and bring him to the country. Experts point out, in addition, the process can be easily put into force as both Sri Lanka and Singapore are Commonwealth nations. Yet, the cooperation of the Sri Lankan High Commission to Singapore is paramount to locate, arrest and extradite Mahendran. Attorney at law Nimal Weeraratne serves as a High Commissioner to Singapore, and he once briefly served as the Treasurer of the UNP. In 2016, after losing his position as Governor of the Central Bank, Arjuna Mahendran was appointed Chief of the 5-year program by the Prime Minister, and tour to Singapore was coordinated by Nimal Weeraratne. Nimal Weeraratne is a senior partner at a legal firm known as Warners. According to its website, Mahinda Haradasa is also listed as a partner. In addition, Mahinda Haradasa, while in the Director Board of Sri Lankan Airlines, advocated to bring in AirAsia along with his relative Dilan Haradasa, raising concerns of another case of nepotism. Mahinda Haradasa is a member of the UNP Working Committee and served in the Director Board of Sri Lankan Airlines. Will the diplomats in the UAE and Singapore, who are close associates of UNP leader Ranil Wickremesinghe, cooperate to bring back Udayanga Weeratunga and Arjuna Mahendran? Is there any possibility to bring those suspects to Sri Lanka without sufficient cooperation from them?
Adding to those questions, will the issues of this country, of the people, be addressed by the authorities? I'm Shayan Jarampati. It's back to the main news desk.